first human home was not built for comfort. It was built because the night could kill you. Today, building a house usually starts with money. You hire work, you buy materials. A truck brings wood, stone, tools, pipes, wires, and maybe one guy who looks personally offended by the measurement. Ancient humans had none of that. No money, no builders, no delivery, no nails, no saws, no backup apartment if the roof failed. If they wanted shelter, someone had to walk into the tree line, cut branches with stone tools, drag them back, tie them together, keep the fire alive, watch the children, and hope the weather did not tear everything apart before night. So, when we ask, how did ancient humans build homes? The answer is not just with sticks, hides, grass, bones, mud, and stone. They built homes with judgment, labor, cooperation, memory, favors, and a very serious fear of sleeping exposed in the dark. For ancient people, a home was not a property. It was a survival system. It had to keep cold away from sleeping bodies. It had to keep rain from soaking fuel, bedding, and skin. It had to protect fire. It had to keep children close. It had to manage smoke, smell, insects, food scraps, and predators. And it had to do all of that with whatever the land was willing to give. The common picture is too simple. Ancient humans saw some trees, grabbed a few branches, threw leaves on top, and suddenly had a shelter. Nice. A little too clean. The hard part did not begin when they raised the roof. It began before the first pole touched the ground. They had to choose the right place, because a shelter in the wrong location was not protected. It was a trap with a roof. A good place had to be close to water, but not inside a flood. It had to be near wood, grass, reeds, stone, or bone, but not so hidden that predators could approach unseen. It had to block wind, but still let smoke escape. Modern people choose homes near schools, markets, roads, or jobs. Ancient people asked rougher questions. Will water collect here when it rains? Are there animal tracks nearby? Can smoke escape? Is this cave already used by something larger than us? A place that looked safe at noon could become a problem at midnight. That is why early humans often used shelter already offered by nature. Cave mouths, rock overhangs, cliff bases, tree cover, natural windbreaks, shallow depressions, and raised dry ground. They did not always build from scratch. Sometimes the smartest move was to find a place nature had half built already, then improve it. Archaeology gives us glimpses of this. At Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, evidence shows repeated human presence deep in prehistory, with tools, animal bones, ash, and traces of fire. At Lazaret Cave in France, signs of occupation suggest early humans used space in organized ways, not just as random hiding places. But a cave was not automatically a home. Fire had to warm people without filling the shelter with smoke. Sharp stone flakes had to stay away from bare feet and chilled. Bones, scraps, and waste had to be pushed away, because smell could attract scavengers. Even inside a natural shelter, people still had to organize heat, sleep, tools, waste, children, danger, and dirt. That sounds boring until you imagine doing it at night, hungry, cold, tired, and listening to something move outside the fire. A shelter did not remove fear. It gave fear a boundary. It said, danger is out there, and for now, we are in here. But humans could not always depend on caves or rock shelters. Herds moved, rivers changed, seasons shifted. Food appeared in one place, then disappeared from another. A cave could be safe, but it could not follow reindeer, horses, bison, or mammoths across open land. So ancient humans had to carry the idea of home with. That meant building with whatever the landscape offered. In forests, they used saplings, branches, bark, leaves, and vines. Near wetlands, reeds and grasses could become walls. In open tundra, hides could be stretched over low frames and held down with stone. In snowy landscapes, packed snow helped insulate. In some Ice Age environments, where wood was limited, mammoth bones could become part of the structure. But before anyone could build the shelter, they had to get the material. And this was not a shopping trip. Modern people buy wood. Ancient humans had to find it, cut it, carry it, dry it, protect it, and hope nothing dangerous found them first. A branch was not just a branch. It was time. It was risk. It was calories burned. It was a hand cut by stone, bark, or splintered wood. It was a person walking away from the safety of the fire into the tree. For a strong shelter, they needed poles, bendy branches, grass, bark, vines, sinew, stones, mud, dry firewood, and hide. None of it appeared in a neat pile beside someone had to go get it. That meant reaching into bushes, crossing wet ground, lifting logs, cutting branches with stone tools, and dragging heavy poles back over uneven ground. Again, and again, and again. A modern construction site has delivered. An ancient construction site had tired people returning from the woods, one bundle at a time. One adult comes back with a pole over the shoulder. Another comes back with grass full of insects. A child carries 3 sticks proudly, which is helpful, but not as helpful as the child thinks. Every material had a price. A thicker roof meant more grass to cut. A stronger frame meant heavier poles to drag. Better waterproofing meant bark, reeds, or mud. A warmer sleeping area meant more hides. And hides meant a successful hunt for animal skin began with danger. Hunt it, butcher it, skin it, scrape it, dry it, soften it, and keep it from rotting. So when we look at a prehistoric shelter, we should not only see wood, grass, bone, stone, mud, and skin. We should see hidden labor. The first wall was not built when they raised the poles. It began during every dangerous trip to collect, and this created another problem. Who was going to do all that work? Today, if you need help building a house, you pay people. Ancient humans did not have money in the modern sense. They could not pull out a wallet and say, "Can you hold this roof beam while I figure out the entrance?" Instead, they used something older than money: obligation. If people helped your family raise a shelter today, you were expected to help them later. You carried wood, you shared meat, you watched children. You stood in bad weather holding a post while someone else tied the frame. This was not simple kindness. It was survival credit. In a world with no banks, contracts, insurance, or emergency services, reputation was a kind of currency. If you helped, people remembered. If you disappeared every time hard work began, people remembered that too. So ancient homes were not only tied together with vines, hide strips, and plant fibers, they were tied together with favors, with debt, with the silent agreement that says, "I help keep your children dry today, and one day you help keep mine alive." That is why building shelter was rarely the work of one heroic person. It was family labor. The strongest adults cut poles, dragged branches, moved stones, lifted the frame, and stood under half-finished roofs that could fall if the bindings slipped. Mothers and other adults were working too, gathering grass, preparing hides, tying bundles, protecting the fire, and keeping children away from sharp tools, weak walls, falling poles, and sparks. Survival rarely respects job descriptions. Older children carried small branches, brought stones, held light pieces in place, and learned by watching. They were useful, but not automatically safe. A child walking too far for one more stick could turn a building day into a search party. The youngest children had a simpler job: stay close, do not fall into the fire, do not wander toward the trees, and do not pull the wrong bind. That last part was harder than it sounds. A child did not have to be strong to damage the shelter. One curious hand on the wrong binding could make part of the roof sag. And elders mattered more than modern people expect. An elder might not drag the heaviest pole in, but they remembered where the ground flooded last season. They knew which plants made better cordage. They knew which winds came before rain. They had seen shelters fail before, and that memory was useful. In a world without written blueprints, an elder was a walking building code. Once the place was chosen, the materials gathered, and the family organized, the frame could finally begin. This is the part that looks easy from far away. Lean a few branches together. Tie them. Throw grass on top. Done. Except nothing about this was clean. There were no nails, no screws, no steel wire, no power drill, no straight boards from a lumberyard. Every pole was crooked in its own special way. One branch was too short. One was too heavy. One cracked when someone lifted it. One looked strong until it started bending at the worst possible moment. Ancient builders were not working with perfect materials. They were negotiating with bad options. A shelter frame had to stand in wind, carry roof weight, leave space for sleeping, let smoke escape, and survive children moving around inside it like tiny disaster machines. First frame could be branches leaned against a tree, a rock face, or a ridgepole. In forests, saplings could bend into arches. In open country, poles could cross into a cone-like shape. Where wood was rare, even mammoth bones could become part of the structure. Simple does not mean easy. A weak frame did not politely announce itself. It failed when the wind pushed. It failed when rain made the roof heavy. Failed when someone leaned against the wrong side in the dark. Failed when a tired adult tied one binding badly because their hands were cold and the light was almost gone. Before nails, bindings were the whole game. Vines, bark strips, plant fibers, rawhide, sinew, and twisted cordage decided whether the roof stayed above the family or slowly turned into a pile of wet branches. A shelter is only as strong as the knot nobody noticed. Too loose, and the frame shifts. Too tight, and the binding can snap. Too weak, and the roof sags. Too wet, and the whole thing starts sliding like it has made other plans. This knowledge was not learned from a manual. It was learned from miserable nights. A roof collapsing once teaches faster than Archaeology only shows fragments of this work. Wood rots, grass disappears, hides decay. What often remains are shadows, post holes, hearths, stone patterns, stained floors, and tool clusters. Terra Amata in France has been interpreted by some archaeologists as possible hut-like shelters, though debate. Mezirik in Ukraine shows mammoth bone dwellings and serious Ice Age plants, but most ancient homes were probably less dramatic than mammoth bone. More dirt, more sticks, more smoke, more arguing, and more repair. After the frame came the covering, and this is where the shelter began fighting back. A thin cover was fast, but weak. A thick cover was warmer, but heavy. A tight wall blocked wind, but trapped smoke. Hide was warm, but wet hide became heavy, smelly, and annoying enough to feel personal. Mud sealed gaps, but rain could wash it out. Dry leaves insulated well, but sparks loved them a little too much. There was no best material. There was only, what will hurt us least tonight? Imagine the roof half covered. Wind starts rising. Someone throws more grass onto the frame. Another person pulls hide over one side. A child gets pushed back from the weak corner. Fire is hissing because the wood is damp. The elder points at the side facing the wind because that is where the roof will tear first. Nobody is admiring the architecture. They are trying to stop the weather from walking straight into their sleeping place. And sometimes, the weather did not wait until the shelter was finished. Rain could begin while the frame was still loose. Bindings could turn slippery. Wet grass could double in weight. Hide could soak up water and pull downward. Mud could slump out of the cracks. A main post could shift. One side of the roof could sag. And then everyone had a choice: stop and get soaked, or keep working while the shelter tried to become the ground. Modern people can delay construction, cover the site, call the builder tomorrow, sleep somewhere else. Ancient people did not always have that luxury. If the roof failed, everyone got wet. If everyone got wet, they got cold. They got cold, they slept badly. If they slept badly, they hunted bad. If they hunted badly, hunger arrived behind the roof. A bad roof was not just a bad roof. It could become tomorrow's empty stomach. So they kept going. Not because they were fearless, because stopping was more dangerous. One person braced the frame with both hands. Another tightened a binding with numb fingers. Someone shoved grass into a leaking gap. Someone dragged the smallest child away from the side that was beginning to drop. Someone protected the fire, because if the fire died, the shelter lost its heart. And someone probably got blamed for choosing the bad pole. Because even in prehistory, construction arguments were not invented yesterday. Once the roof stood, the next enemy was smoke. A shelter that blocks wind too well can become a smoke trap. Fire-warmed bodies, cooked food, dried hides, hardened wooden tools gave light and made some animals less confident about coming closer. Fire also creates problems. Smoke can sting the eyes and burn the throat. Sparks can jump into grass, bark, or hide. Wet wood can hiss and refuse to burn. Too much flame wastes fuel. Too little flame dies before the coldest hour. So the fire had to be placed with care. Not too close to the wall. Not too far from sleep. Not where the wind stole all the heat. Not where smoke crawled across everyone's faces. The roof was not only protecting people, it was protecting the fire. And the fire was protecting the people. That relationship had to work, or the whole shelter failed. Floor was another problem pretending to be simple. Sleep on cold, damp earth long enough, and the ground starts stealing heat from the body. No claws, no teeth, just cold moving upward while people are too exhausted to fight. So ancient humans brought the landscape indoors. Grass, reeds, leaves, bark, branches, hides, and ash became bedding, insulation, pest control, and a barrier against damp ground. At Border Cave in South Africa, archaeologists found ancient plant bedding with layers of grasses and ash. The ash may have helped reduce insects. They were not just making a softer bed, they were stopping cold, insects, dirt, and rot from turning sleep into another threat. Inside the shelter, everything had a place. because mistakes had teeth. Sharp stone flakes could not sit where children stepped. Fuel had to stay dry. Food scraps had to move away. Hides had to dry without catching fire. Tools had to stay reachable. Children had to stay visible, but away from sparks, blades, weak walls, and collapsing corners. They did not need a floor plan. Their blueprint was memory. This is where the fire goes because smoke was terrible last time. This is where children sleep because that side stayed warmer. This is where bones go because last time the smell brought scavengers too close. This is where nobody leans because that wall is lying about being strong. Smell was one of the most dangerous details. Modern people think of smell as unpleasant. In the wild, smell is information. Smoke, cooked meat, wet hide, blood, bones, scraps, sweat, damp grass, and waste could travel farther than people want. Predators did not need to charge through the entrance like a movie monster. The scarier version is quieter. Something stays beyond the fire. Behind brush, across a stream, at the tree line, on a ridge. It does not attack. It waits. It listens. It smells what the humans are trying to protect. That is enough to ruin sleep. And bad sleep matters. A tired hunter makes worse decisions. A tired parent misses danger. A tired group argues faster and moves slower. So shelter was not only about stopping predators physically, it was about reducing the pressure of being watched by the dark. Then came the morning. This is the part modern people forget. The shelter did not become finished. It became not dead yet. Wind loosened coverings. Rain flattened grass. Smoke damaged hides. Sparks burned holes. Mud cracked. Insects moved into bed. Children stepped on weak edges. Someone sleeping in the wrong position pushed against a wall that was already tired. A shelter was alive in the most annoying way. It wanted attention every day. Tighten this binding. Add more grass. Move the wet hide. Dry the bedding. Clear ash. Gather more fuel. Patch the roof. Move food remains farther away. Check if something came close during the night. A modern house might come with a warranty. An ancient shelter came with maintenance every morning. And if the group moved, even that work could be temporary. For many hunter-gatherers, movement was the smartest architecture. If herds moved, plants ripened elsewhere, people moved. If fuel ran out, people moved. If water changed with the season, people moved. A home might last 3 nights, a few weeks, 1 hunting season, or be rebuilt again and again in the same useful place. Valuable materials could travel with the group. Cheap materials could be abandoned. Modern homes are often assets. Ancient homes were often survival baskets. Use them to get through the dangerous stretch. Then leave when staying becomes the danger. But in some places, staying longer made sense. Along rivers, coasts, wetlands, and seasonal routes where food returned year after year, people came back to the same ground. A camp used once became a camp remembered. Walls became heavy. This was not instant civilization. It was a slow bet. Will this place feed us long enough to justify building more? Sometimes the answer was yes. In the Levant, Natufian communities built stone-based round or oval houses before full farming took over. Later, Çatalhöyük, in what is now Turkey, shows dense mud brick homes with hearths, platforms, storage spaces, and roof ends. But heavier homes did not remove survival problems. They changed stored food, reduced hunger, but attracted pests. Solid walls blocked wind, but trapped smoke. Staying in one place created memory and identity, but also waste. So ancient housing was never a simple story of progress. It was a trade. Move, and your shelter is weak. Stay, and your problems pile up. Build light, and the weather wins fast. Build heavy, and the land owns more of your future. That is why the real answer is not one design. How did ancient humans build homes? They built the shelter. The situation allowed. They read the land first. They gathered every piece by hand. They built through cooperation, because one person could not do everything safe. Without money, they paid in obligation. You help my family today, I help yours tomorrow. Families became the construction crew. Strong adults lifted and dragged. Skilled hands tied and covered. Older children carried what they could. Young children were kept from turning curiosity into structural damage. Elders remembered where the land had betrayed people before. They raised frames without nails, using tension, weight, forked branches, stone anchors, rawhide, vines, fiber, and experience. They protected the fire, managed smoke, smell, food waste, insects, bedding, tools, children, and predators. And when wind, rain, cold, or bad luck damaged the shelter, they repaired again and again Not because they loved building, because the alternative was sleeping exposed while the night did what the night does. Ancient humans did not build homes the way we build to live better. They built to live long. A modern house says, "This is mine." An ancient shelter said something older and more urgent. Fire is still alive. The children are still close. The wind is outside. The roof did not fall. The night has not taken us yet. And for one more morning, that was enough.